Delves, dungeons, raids, crafting, so many things to do now that the season has started, but what to start with and which one is the best one to do overall? Welcome to season 1 and this is what you gotta do. The content that we have available isn't fully out all at once, so we will talk about each week in particular with some tips on how to be more efficient. First of all, in week 1, almost everything is out except Mythic Raid and Mythic Plus. The first week of the season is the 619 eye level week, since that will be the max you can achieve on individual items, or at least this will be your goal to chase. The first and likely the activity that will eat most of your time will be delves. This week all the delves will be unlocked, and what you want is to get to tier 8 delves as fast as possible, since they will contribute to your weekly vault, and tier 8 delves will give you hero track gear in week 2. And since this is the vault we are talking about, you'll have a chance of some of those options to be actual tier pieces. Your tier set will normally be the biggest upgrade you can chase, although not for every spec it seems. The tuning of the set bonuses right now is a bit wonky, where for some specs it can even be a DPS loss. Since tuning might even happen by the time we publish this video and again by the time you watch it, there's no real point in talking about these numbers, but tuning will happen because they're not gonna let tier bonuses be damage losses. But we recommend checking with your class discords on how big the upgrade is if you want to chase it. For the purpose of the video, we will assume the set bonuses will be as intended, the biggest upgrade possible you can get, likely eventually once all of the tunings has happened. And to round it up on the delves, hopefully you saved up your restored coffer key for the bountiful delves. You want to steadily unlock the tier 8 delves by completing delves with the revives remaining, and once you can do the delve at tier 8, make sure you use your keys at the end for the bountiful chest, since it will reward 603 item level champion gear. Outside heroic raid, this will be the best gear you can loot, since you can bring it to 619 item level with your proper upgrades. Delves will also reward you with crests, particularly the rune crests in tier 8 that will work towards getting your gear to 619. You get very few crests per run, but it is a source you can farm as a solo player. With the start of the season, the 13th delve will also be available, and this is the hardest one. Nobody was able to test it on the beta yet to tell you what's what, but what you might want to know is that here is where you get to make your dirigible mount all voidy. Plus, we will likely get all sorts of achievements from it. The delve is in Ashkahet, right here in the bottom left part of the map. First week will also bring out the world boss, which drops champion track gear. It will start at 603 item level, but once again can be upgraded to 619. Just like how we were upgrading our content with our second channel, haha. We have a weekly podcast that we stream every Thursday on twitch.tv/Marcelian&Online, and out of it we make clips and videos about talking points we went over. It's a more unfiltered version of Marcelian&Online with Marcelian himself and yours truly. So if you are curious, head on over and check our content out. It's a small channel, but we're getting there. Next up should be your crafting choices, and here you need to be careful. First of all, if you didn't use your crafting spark, this week you will be able to get your second one, so essentially you can craft 2 pieces. We still don't know if the embellishments will receive any tuning similar to tier sets, since right now the bonuses they give is super tiny. If you are already set on one though, make sure whatever it is you craft is not in a tier piece slot unless your class guides tell you otherwise. But if you do manage to craft 2 pieces, you can get them to 619 item level this week with the enchanted runed harbinger crest, provided your crafter can max out the eye level on the craft. That also means that you will be using the limited crests that you already have for this. The cap we started with for the other crests was 180 and it increased by 90 per week. It's likely the runed crests will follow a similar pattern, but if they start at a cap of 90 and crafting an item eats 45 of them, you can get 2 max and then you have no crests left over, so keep your eyes peeled. If you don't have a group of friends or a guild to raid and do dungeons with, you will likely want to get the Renown rewards for some easy epics and idol levels if you have been keeping up with your dailies and story quests. First of all, you can get veteran pieces if you haven't already, which come very quickly and can be upgraded to 606 item level pretty easily. Dornagal Rep gives you a shoulder piece at level 7, the Assembly of the Deeps rewards you with a helmet at Renown level 8, and Hallowfall has at Renown 7 a chest piece. There's a funky trinket you can get from the Severed Threads at Renown 11, but it seems it's bugged right now and deals less damage than it should. If it gets fixed, it can be an easy item level source as well. The second tier reward will be for champion gear, and this is unlocked at Renown 16 for Dornagal, 18 for Hallowfall, and 19 for the Assembly and Severed Threads. These items will be 697 item level champion pieces that can be brought again all the way up to 619 with enough resources and valor stones. Ideally, if you plan on heroic raiding or even normal raiding, you might want to hold off on upgrading these items since resources will be limited. The only reason you would ignore this is if you want to just be able to pug content and you are worried people will invite better geared players over you. A content you can spam this week actually will be the normal Mythic Dungeons. They will only reward you with veteran gear, which goes to 606 item level only, but the Mythic Dungeons will have a daily lockout this time instead of a weekly one. So yeah, you can do them every day. Don't forget that in the first week, the Catalyst will be available with one charge to be used. You want to ideally save this charge 100% of the time for the next reset. Why? Well, during this week, you will raid and likely loot some tier pieces. Once the reset comes, you might get another tier piece in your vault, so you can save this catalyst for whatever it is missing. Otherwise, you can risk catalyzing a quick tier piece and the next raid boss you kill will drop the same piece you already catalyzed, because that's how it always happens to me. You can opt to ignore this if the catalyst can give you a quick 2-piece or a turbo lucky 4-piece and your tier set is a massive upgrade that can carry your guild through heroic or something like that. Alternatively, what we recommend you do is only use the catalyst on the item type you will be doing the endgame at. For most endgame players, that will be hero track items. If you want to push keys, push heroic, or even push mythic rating, item level upgrades early on are really important, and the catalyst can make you get a full tier set at hero track or higher way faster. This is something to keep in mind since the second catalyst charge will only happen 2 weeks later. Speaking of looting tier pieces, the first wing of LFR will open as well, and as far as beta testing is concerned, the wing should have the first 3 bosses. This is important because the third boss can drop a tier token. Obviously, you have to be lucky to get it, but that's true with everything, really. Ideally, you want to hop into LFR quick and pray to the gods above and below that it drops. For chill players, this can just make your 4 set happen faster. For guild raiders, this can go towards another raider getting a token that you would normally get that you just replace with an LFR token. For tier pieces, usually the eye level isn't as important as the actual set being complete, so getting the LFR version is not a downgrade. Usually. But like I said earlier, the set bonuses this season are incredibly undertuned for some specs where a higher item level piece might actually be better. I don't know if that applies to you. You will have to figure it out with the class community that you are a part of. And lastly, the real raid will open with normal and heroic. The normal raid will drop 583 champion gear that can be taken to 606 item level if you just farm normal content, or 619 if you loot the crest from more challenging content. Yes, the gearing is all over the place. Welcome to World of Warcraft. Heroic will drop hero track gear that can eventually reach 626 item level. You cannot get it that high no matter what you do this week, since the upgrade crest required for that will only drop the following one. And speaking of, let's hop into week 2. The 639 item level week, the highest item level gear in the game that you may or may not be able to acquire. We still recommend you farm tier 8 delves if you want to maximize your future vaults, or at least until you are full hero track and you want to swap your items to myth track. But likely that's not this week or even the the next one. Since now you can farm the gilded crests, you can start looking into crafting 636 atom level pieces. Sure, it won't go as high as 639 atom level, which is the seasonal max, but if it's a key item that can only be replaced by a 639 atom level gear, it's probably a good choice to go for, since it's gonna take a while for you to get to that particular eye level. You would only have 1/2 of a spark extra this week, so by crafting, I mean recrafting last week's 619 if you did so. And the same disclaimer applies, crests are limited, only do it if you know what you're doing. Side note, this week the new story mode for the raid will be available, of which we know very little. But what we do know is that the mode is made for people to discover the conclusion of the story for War Within for the first season, of course, without needing other people to do the raid. You can still have friends in if you wish and fill in with NPCs up to the total allowed of 10 people. The mode is for chill story enjoyers that I will definitely try out as well, since the story and vibe of this expansion has been incredible for us. As for the rewards or what bosses you will do, we don't know anything at the moment. We just know that Ansurek is going to be the obvious goal, so have fun! LFR will open with the second wing this week, and it's a big one. All 3 bosses that will be present will drop a tier token, so if you are still missing a piece or just starting out your gearing journey, definitely don't skip on this wing. Of course, Mythic Nerebar Palace will be available now with the best gear in the game, period. At least eye level wise, since the range will be from 623 all the way to 639 item level for the ultra rare items that can drop in the end. And let's not forget that Mythic Plus will finally be available with a whole new roundup of dungeons. The pool will include the Stone Vault, City of Threads, Arakara, and the Dawnbreaker from the current expansion, with 4 old dungeons making a return: Mists of Tyrna's Scythe, Necrotic Wake, Siege of Borealis, and Grim Batol. With the M+ dungeons being open, we once again will be able to farm gear that ranges from 697 Champion track to 613 Hero track, from +2 and +10 respectively, with the Vault going all the way to 623 Myth track for the +10 keys completed. That 623, however, will be Myth 1 out of 6 upgrade levels, meaning you will need to spend a fair bit of crests to get it to 639 item level, which will be the max. One other note are the affixes. For those of you who haven't kept up with the beta, all the affixes you knew about M+ will be going away with the exception of Fortified and Tyrannical. The new Mythic Plus system will have a new rotating affix starting with +2, and that's Xal'atath's Bargain. Won't go into details here, but this is a Kiss Curse affix where if you play it properly, you get a buff from it to smash the dungeons. On +4 and onwards, you will get either Fortified or Tyrannical rotating every week, just like you knew from before. +7 will come with Challenger's Peril, an affix that will make deaths count as a 15 seconds penalty to the timer, up from the previous 5 seconds, making correct play even more desired now. +10s will add Tyrannical or Fortified, whichever one was not on the +4 key, so essentially from 10s and up you will have both Tyrannical and Fortified all the time. Then starting with +12s, Xal'atath's Bargain will be replaced with her Guile, that just boosts the health and damage of mobs and bosses by 20% with no potential buff to the player, making the high keys consistent between weeks and eliminating the concept of push weeks. The third week of the season will bring you the third spark for your crafting needs and the second charge of the catalyst, which by this point you'll likely use it to get your last tier piece if you have been raiding every week so far. The last LFR Wing will open up with likely the last 2 bosses, second to last giving you a tier token, while Ansurek dropping the Omni token, which can be redeemed for the tier piece still missing. Not to mention that Ansurek will also drop the raid mount on LFR as well as the other difficulties, so this is another reason to not skip this wing. And lastly, as a little bit of a bonus, if you plan on just farming Mythic Plus for the rest of the season, here are 3 key levels you might be interested in as the most efficient ones to go for. If you play WoW casually and don't want to stress it too much, doing +2 is just fine. Here you will loot 597 atom level champion gear, which you can eventually take to 606 atom level with the crests you loot in these dungeons. If you like Mythic Plus but you are not an endgame pusher, just chill in +2 and your champion gear will be good enough to clear anything in the game, especially delves. And if you ever want to go higher, the item level you get here should set you up for better and better content. Next up will be +7 keys, which are what you want to farm hero track gear and the runed crests to upgrade that gear to 619, or craft those items at that level. If 7 is too high for you, +4 is less efficient, but will still reward hero track gear in your vault, and the dungeons themselves will still drop runed crests to eventually upgrade that gear to 619. It will be slower, but way easier than doing +7s. And lastly, of course, will be +10s, as the only way to get Mythic track gear outside Mythic Raid, and of course only in the weekly vault. You can, however, start farming the Gilded Crest from +9 and avoid the second weekly affix, but you will not be getting any Myth track gear that way. So +2, +7s, and +10s are what we consider the most efficient keys for the most amount of rewards with the least amount of effort based on every player's skill level. And all of this is well and good, but you can definitely farm Season 1 with better add-ons. Your boys have you covered in our add-ons video right here, and trust me, it will be worth your time for at least one add-on I bet will make your game better that you didn't know about.